Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. We're in our Field of Daisies, Meadows scene. And I always think of Julie Andrews and The Sound of Music when I have this outdoor setting like this.
Yeah, you can see her like spinning on one of these hills.
Yeah.
Singing about hills being alive.
And on this version of Asaph Cafe, we're in our third season. Now, you know, when we talk in seasons, it's not a literal year like regular television. Every 15 episodes, I call it a new season. Mm-hmm. And so the original virtual set that I had for Jeannie on the show we just did, it got lost. So that's why we had this new set. So this will be the first time we're using this set, and I'm the first person on MCAT to use this on an actual show. So I'm really humbled to get to share that first with both of you. So my guests for this segment, we have Miss Jeannie O'Loughlin and Daniel Gibbs. And you can look at that camera and wave and say hi to your loved ones.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
And I
Hello,
think
everyone.
instead of playing the traditional Burt Bacharach's Guys in Love with You, I'm going to do Fascination, since that's a song you seem to like. There you go.
Thanks.
Pretty.
Fascination. Yeah, that's called Fascination.
Oh.
Yeah, I was playing at the library a few days back, and Dan came by and said hi, and we were trying to figure out what the song was, and he was like humming a few notes, and they didn't give me much to work with, and he just said it sounded like a little arpeggio.
Yeah.
And eventually, after trying different songs, like, was it this song? Nope, not that one. Or was it something like that, whatever. And then we finally were able to pinpoint it.
Yeah, my mom used to have this little, she still has this little music box that just plays like part of Fascination that kind of on a loop as the metal lyrics goes around.
Yeah, that's called Fascination is the name of that. So
and I was thinking it starts with an F, like fantasy something, but I'm really glad I was able to figure it out.
She plays beautifully, doesn't
Right,
she?
yeah, definitely. Come on. See, I'm kind of not talking much because I'm kind of lost in these hills that are alive with the sound of music.
Yeah. God, I smiled so much my cheeks are starting to hurt.
You know the Sound of Music when they're filming this, right? And Julie Andrews spinning on the hills.
Yeah.
Apparently that helicopter's super low trying to film, and it kept on the air jets kept on knocking her over. She hated filming that part.
Wow.
Julie Andrews is actually someone I have a lot of respect for as far as actors go.
Oh, she is terrific, isn't she?
First chapter book I ever read was actually written by her when she decided she wanted to write a book.
Oh, yeah. She can just do whatever she wants and excel at it. It's really cool.
Isn't that a beautiful song?
That is beautiful.
Yeah. I'm just really hooked on Julie Andrews. I've been studying her music lately. In recent times. I recently did a story on Julie Andrews on that news program, Wake Up Missoula, because they just celebrated the 50th anniversary of The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? 50 years.
No, it's just hard to imagine.
I know. I feel like Rip Van Winkle. Like I'm getting old.
It's timeless too, because
That's right.
even when you watch it in this day and age, it's not hokey or corny. It just it's
very relevant. It's just a beautiful musical. And I actually heard the Von Trapp family sing.
Oh, really?
The real Von Trapp family.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who's a pastor, and sometimes pastors have a way of getting access to stuff. So he had the actual recordings of the Von Trapp family singing.
Oh my goodness.
The Sound of Music, this theme song,
Yeah.
Edelweiss, Favorite Things. And of course, their version was good. It wasn't Julie Andrews, obviously, because that's not a fair comparison, because Julie Andrews is like a well-trained singer.
Yeah.
But the Van Trapp family, they held their own.
Yeah.
And of course, it made sense to use someone like Julie Andrews in a movie
Yeah.
because of her popularity at the time, and so that more people would watch it
Right.
and know about the real Von Trapp family. Because I think
Yeah.
if they'd have used the real Van Trapp family, it wouldn't have been as effective. So
Was this before or after Mary Poppins came out?
no, I think Mary Poppins came out first.
It did?
Yeah, if I remember correctly. Because see, Julie Andrews was doing My Fair Lady, and it goes something like this.
Is that from My Fair Lady right there? I always thought it was from South Pacific, but I've never seen either of them.
I could have danced all night. Is that?
Yeah, I could have danced
Yeah.
all night.
Yeah.
I could have danced all night. Oh, not that part anymore. Do you know who wrote the music for My Fair Lady?
I don't know.
Was it Roger and Hammerstein by any chance, or?
I don't know who wrote it. That's a little generic version of it, but I want to say Rogers Hammerstein, but don't quote me on that because I don't really know.
I mean, anything
I
from
think
that
you're
time period,
right.
it's a good
But
guess they did it.
answering your question about Julie Andrews, yeah, she was doing My Fair Lady as a young woman, and I have a clip of her on the Ed Sullivan Show when she was really young, way before Mary Poppins, way before The Sound of Music, singing that. Boy, she could scream to high heaven then.
Yeah.
Gee whiz. She's still, well,
Yeah.
even when she was a little bit older, she was still able to do that. It was really
Yeah.
amazing. So she was doing My Fair Lady for a time.
Was that the stage production?
Yeah. I believe so, yeah. And then eventually, when she got maybe a few years older, the door opened for her to do Mary Poppins. And then, of course, The Sound of Music.
Oh yeah. I was really shocked on it. You know how A&E does these biographies of people, and they tell you all this interesting things. They did one on the Von Trapp family, and they said that they had to escape Nazi Germany because the Nazis were after them. And
Yeah.
that's when The Sound of Music started. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's true. That's based on the real Von Trapp family.
Wow.
Well, the relationship between, I think it was Austria and Germany was not very good at that time.
Right.
And the Nazis just decided to invade Poland and all that. And so the real Von Trapp family literally escaped. They left everything behind. And so that's what's neat about that film, Sound of Music. It just tells the story. They probably took a few little artistic licenses in the movie because it's a Hollywood movie, but it pretty much tells the story of the real Von Trapp family. And so having heard the Von Trapps in real life, that was cool.
Yeah.
I couldn't explain it. You just have to hear the recording. They did all the songs that Julie Andrews did in the film.
I heard that all the Von Trapps moved up to Vermont.
That I don't know, but...
like after they got out of Austria, went to Switzerland because it was neutral, and then they eventually made it to America where they moved to Vermont because it reminded them of that part where they were from.
Wow. Yeah.
I believe I read that somewhere.
That was a delight to hear that family in real life. And I think they're in the third generation now, the Von Trapp family.
Oh, they're still going?
I don't know. This is what I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know for sure. I don't know how much truth there is in that. But to me, Julie Andrews is probably the greatest female vocalist of all time.
Yeah.
I think that, and this is not to take away from all the other great vocalists like Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan and Shirley Jones and all the rest, but me personally, Julie Andrews.
That's,
yeah.
yeah.
She just had that way of singing.
Yeah.
And she was she still is, very gifted singer.
Yeah.
She turns 80 this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, God bless her. Yeah,
Yeah.
Julie Andrews will be 80 years
80
old this
years
year.
old.
She was
God
born
bless
October
her.
1st.
Wow.
Well, I had to do my little research because, when I do that news program, I do stories of performers from the past. So I chose Julie Andrews as one person I did stories on.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you some of the other stories I've done. Some of the musicians you would know and some you wouldn't. And so, like the ones that you don't know who they are, but you know what they do, that makes
Yeah.
it fun when you tell the story.
Yeah.
Like Plaz Johnson, African-American saxophonist. You wouldn't know him, but you know what he did? He did the theme to the Pink Panther.
Oh.
On the cartoon.
Oh.
Something like that. But yeah, it was Plaz Johnson that did that.
Yeah.
Some of the other people that I did stories on was like Blossom Dearie. I don't know if you ever heard of her. Let me play the song and see if you recognize it.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
You've heard this song?
Yeah, I don't know where.
So it's kind of makes me think of Eastern Europe for some reason.
Yeah.
That is from the Schoolhouse Rock that they had in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
That was called Figure 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably recognize it.
I did, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock. That was on every Saturday
Schoolhouse.
with the cartoons.
The way the tonalities, it almost sounds like something out of Fiddler on the Roof, though.
Yeah, it
That's
makes
kind
me
of
think
minor.
of the other musicals. You never finished watching Les Miserables on my DVD. That
Okay.
we were watching that.
Well, maybe I have to finish that. But anyway, to
Yeah.
complete that, that's called Figure 8. See, in the 70s, they had, this is probably before your time, but they had a series of educational cartoons that came on before the top of the hour.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady who did Figure 8, her name was Blossom Dearie, and she sounded like a little girl. That's why it worked. Figure 8 is double 4. I can't sing, but anyway, it was cool to listen to this lady. She was a jazz singer and a professional jazz pianist. You can look her up on the YouTube, Blossom Dearie. And I did a story on her.
Yeah.
I brought up that Figure 8, so I showed the cartoon. I was doing a story where they're doing that Figure 8. And that was called Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, Blossom Dearie did a number of some of those Schoolhouse Rocks. Like she did Mother Necessity, the one about the invention.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then she also did Unpack Your Adjectives. That was pretty cool. That was Blossom Dearie. But I think the most recognizable one is probably this Figure 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that sad kind of sound to it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was kind of Eastern European sounding.
I don't know, just whoever wrote that song.
I associate with sadness, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. And so that was Blossom Dearie. So she's like another person I did stories on. And I've done stories on, like yesterday I did a story on Carmen Miranda. I don't know if you ever heard of her.
Fruit?
Yeah, the fruit
Yeah,
lady.
that's-
She had she wore the fruit on her head.
Yeah.
And they called her the Chiquita Banana Lady. And so I used to watch Carmen Miranda when I was growing up. See, they don't do those kind of entertainments much anymore.
Is there like a song that's like associated with Carmen Miranda? Because she's sane, right?
She did a song called Chicka Chicka Boom Chick or something like that. I couldn't play it on the piano, but it was just it was in the Hollywood years in the 40s. They did all that extravagant, glamorous kind of stuff. And Carmen Miranda she did like 14 pictures in those years with that fruit on her head. And it was fun to watch. She was a good-looking woman, and you're like blessed with looks, and you put a fruit on your head, everybody's gonna still be like, wow.
What do you think she did with the fruit afterwards? Did she eat it?
Well,
or-
I don't
know if
think it was real.
fruit.
It was just
might
a
have
hat.
been just like a hat.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was really hoping it was real fruit. I mean, it just.
I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't even around then. But
I guess real fruit would probably weigh a lot more.
Yeah, and it might fall off.
Well, they probably had it secured in such a way where it wouldn't fall when they were shooting scenes. I don't know. I wasn't there, but in the 1940s, Hollywood just really did a number of extravagant films in those years. Probably cost a fortune to make, but they don't do shows like that anymore. They don't make movies like that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was then. But Carmen Miranda was very famous in her time, and what a legacy to have left behind.
Yeah.
Every time you see anything pertaining to her, she's got some kind of fruit hat or some kind of wild dress, some flamboyant look. I said in my interview that she makes Liberace look like a school kid with a flamboyant look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of Liberace, but Carmen had the flamboyance way down to a T, to an art form.
Yeah, I remember that video of Liberace that he showed me that one time when he was really young. He didn't look flamboyant at all.
Well, he didn't do that at that time.
Yeah.
See, he had 2 television shows in his career, Liberace.
Mm-hmm.
That black and white one that I showed you, that was in 1952. That was unheard of that a solo pianist could have his own television show.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it worked is because television was new in the 50s.
Yeah.
So if you've got this pianist playing on regular television, you're going to get seen.
Yeah.
And the Liberace show was the #1 show on television in 1952, beating even I Love Lucy.
I'll be darned.
That was the #1 show at that time, so no wonder he got so famous.
Yeah.
And
after that, he got more flamboyant.
yeah, and then in 1969 in London, they did a second Liberace show, and that's when, of course, the image changed. He wasn't wearing the tux.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little bit, he was 15 years old or something like that, and he had the flamboyant look, the diamonds, the rhinestones, fancier candelabra than the one in the 52 version.
Was he still as good?
Yeah, I think his technique slowed down just slightly, but it wasn't
Kinky.
anything that was really noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because when you're like in your prime, you can only keep that up for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was pretty impressive. And of course, he was doing more popular music on the second show than the first one. The first one, he did a lot of Chopin and stuff, but the second one was more just popular music, and it worked. You know, the image was changed, and it was fun watching Liberace. I always enjoyed watching him. So that's the history of the Liberace show. They had 2 shows, but the first one really took off. And I think part of it is, again, television was new.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is Hollywood frowned on television when it first came out. If you know the history of movies, first it was the silent films like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton. I don't know if you know these names or not, but they didn't have talking in film in those years. I think it was like the 1920s, 1910s, 1920s around
That's
there.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they would do is they'd have the words on the screen so you knew what the actor was saying.
Yeah.
And then they'd go to the next scene. And then they developed the sound. So early Hollywood frowned on pictures with sound. But the concept was so good that a lot of people were going in that direction, so it was putting the major stars out of work. Because a lot of them didn't want to conform to this new concept of sound in film. And Dick Van Dyke did a movie based on that once.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was playing a role of a silent film star who didn't want to conform to sound in pictures.
Yeah.
So his character that Van Dyke played kind of fell by the wayside. And so a lot of the stars of the past frowned on television. You know, they didn't want to. First, it was the movies and print or sound, and then of course it went to television.
Yeah.
And only a handful of the movie stars went into television, like Loretta Young.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember her or ever heard of her. She was a famous movie star in the, I think, 30s and 40s with people like Clark Gable.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, television came out, and Loretta Young had the foresight to jump from movies into television when she was advised not to, because a lot of people wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, that reached a bigger audience. And you had people like Sid Caesar, Milton Berle, and some of those people that had the foresight to jump on that. And Liberace was one of them.
Yeah.
So that's how come he got so well known, because, you know, Liberace was doing film. You know, he may not have been a leading man, but, you know, with the skill that he had on the piano, they were using him a lot. Like in the movie Sincerely Yours, Liberace had a major role in that. And so the story is that they didn't think that it would be worth it to have a bankable star in the motion pictures go into television. That was the thinking. And the thinking was that television would be a passing phase, but we know that that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
So Liberace goes into television, Loretta Young goes into television, and a handful of others that I mentioned, and they just skyrocketed and took off. Because now more American people in American homes, for example, could watch these people without having to pay all the money to go to the movie theater and stuff.
Sorry, my phone just went off. I'm gonna go pull the
That's
battery out of it so it doesn't do it
This is
again.
a live show, so don't worry
I
about it.
forgot about the phone. There we go.
But
No.
anyway, that's kind of the history of television, and of course, wow, when television came out and it was black and white, Milton Berle and all those people, my goodness, they really soared new heights, then you might say, and it worked. And of course, if you're a movie star now, you just have to really work at it with television and stuff, so that's kind of history there. So I do all these stories on Wake Up Missoula, music stories, and there's so many other artists I've done stories on, like B.J. Thomas. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Oh, yeah.
Ring a bell. Oh, yes.
Yeah. He lived in Dallas when I lived there, and he was pretty much all around all the time. Everybody knew him, everybody loved him. Real nice man. Really nice.
Short version.
That was in
Butch
Cassidy
and the Sundance Kid. Did you ever see that movie?
I saw that movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, B.J. Thomas was the one that sang Raindrops. That's what made him really, really famous
Yeah, it's
when he was a young man.
it's wonderful in that movie. It's
Yeah.
a perfect place to put it, and it just
And the fun thing about that Wake Up Missoula is I can bring all these artists from the past that the younger generation aren't going to know who they are. And so a lot of people probably won't know the name B.J. Thomas, but they'll know Raindrops.
oh
when
yeah,
they hear
that's
it.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun. Like I mentioned, when I do a story of an artist that you don't know who they are, but you know what they do, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
So B.J. Thomas was fun to write about or talk about, and of course Carmen Miranda and Blossom Dearie. So, and I've done just tons of other stories. In a few months, I've been doing this musical segment, and I also did a story on Cab Calloway. I don't know if you.
I know Cab Calloway. Is that a howdy howdy ho?
That's it.
Was it called Minnie the Mooch? Minnie the something?
Yeah, Minnie the Moocher.
Minnie the Moocher.
The reason I did a story on Cab Calloway, he's credited with Michael Jackson's Moonwalk. He's also credited with the originator of the moves that James Brown did in concert. If you go back to 1933, there's film footage of Cab Calloway doing moonwalk moves similar to Michael Jackson.
oh really?
Yeah, they got it posted on YouTube, so he's credited with the originator, the original originator.
Yeah. Can you do the moonwalk?
I can't.
I can't either.
No, there'd be no way on this earth I could do that
This-
moonwalk.
Could you do it on the moon, perhaps?
I'm not a dancer, I'm not a singer. I just play the piano, so anyway.
Yeah, Cab Calloway also wrote a book, I think in 1938, called The Dictionary of Jive.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, which
I've never read it, but I've heard of it.
Oh.
which is a big basis of Ebonics.
Oh.
And so where he had all these what he called jive terms, and he defined what they meant. And it was a really interesting read. I found a copy online one time. I spent a good solid 2 weeks trying to sound like Cab Calloway, to the amusement or annoyance of my friends.
You recognize it?
I think I'm getting.
You don't recognize it?
No, I recognize it.
Okay.
I was just thinking, if you had a bass and drums going there, it'd be really recognizable.
Yeah, that's my little piano version of Michael Jackson's Beat It. But anyway, Cab Calloway is credited as the originator. And speaking of Cab Calloway, when he was 80 years old, he came to Sacramento. He packed the house at the Sacramento Auditorium. And I think everybody just wanted to hear him sing Minnie the Moocher, which he did. And of course, he wasn't maybe physically able to quite move, but the voice was still there.
Yeah.
So that was good enough, just
Yeah.
to see Cab Calloway sing Minnie the Moocher and hear that voice. So that was pretty cool.
Was
And
his
of course-
name from birth Cab Calloway?
Pardon?
Was that his name from the time he was born, or did he change it for show business?
I don't know. That's not clear.
Yeah, because
I know when you look up information about him, it always has the name Cab Calloway, and I wonder if
Yeah.
that's what he was named. I don't know.
it seems like you're named that you're destined to do something interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think Cab Calloway succeeded in that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He did a song called Reefer Man too back in those days, and that was before that censorship stuff came out. And I don't think he was promoting weed or anything like that, but that's one of his songs, a song called Reefer Man, which talks about marijuana. So
Wow.
I think it might have had medicinal purpose. I don't know. I don't know that song well enough.
Might have been his cocktail of choice.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff that Cab Calloway has done, he and his orchestra did the music to the Betty Boop cartoons
Huh.
of that time. So I've got film footage of that. Like, they'll show the actual Cab Calloway and the actual orchestra while the cartoon's going on, and then it cuts to the cartoon.
That's pretty cool.
And also, Louis Armstrong also did the music to Betty Boop.
Hmm.
I don't think people realize that. Cab Calloway and Louis Armstrong, them and their orchestras, they did the music to the original Betty Boop black and white cartoon.
Were they pretty well established by the time?
Probably.
So the
They'd
cartoon
have to.
had a pretty big budget to bring these guys in then.
Yeah, I think so. That's probably most likely. And I don't know how many people will remember the Betty Boop cartoons, but that was a very popular cartoon in that time.
Well, the Betty Boop figure has become kind of...
Yeah, kind of an icon.
It continues.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
back in the 80s, she had her own newspaper cartoon strip,
Yeah.
in which she co-starred with Felix the Cat in this cartoon strip.
Mm-hmm. Well, Betty
So-
Boop was considered a voluptuous cartoon character,
Mhm.
and that might have been why it worked, because it was probably considered new at that time to have a cartoon with that kind of a figure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the bosoms and things like that. But it was tastefully done.
Yeah.
And
And
I think that may have paved the way for other full-figured kind of cartoon characters like Jessica Rabbit on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah. Let's do that song. That's a song called Why Don't You Do Right?
This is something that she sings in the club.
Mm-hmm. That's what she sang in that film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But I think Betty Boop paved the way, the creators of that. And there were other cartoon characters that were voluptuous, I guess, like Natasha. Do you remember Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Oh, yeah.
Bullies.
You remember Boris
Bullies.
Badenov and his girlfriend Natasha?
Moose and Squirrel.
Yeah, so she
Fearless
was like
leader.
that. And of course, there are a lot of other cartoon characters.
Oh, I
that-
wish Bullwinkle would come back.
Yeah, no
That
kidding.
was
Oh,
so
that's a-
funny.
I have the entire Rocky and Bullwinkle collection at home. I collect VHS movies. And of course, they're not as clear as DVD and Blu-ray, obviously, but they're fun to collect. I've been collecting VHS movies for about 2 or 3 years or more now.
They got Rocky and Bullwinkle, like the old ones
I'm
from the
talking about
early
the original
60s. Yeah,
Rocky and
they got that on DVD now.
I'm sure they do, but I just chose the VHS just to have fun.
Oh.
They're not as clear, I understand, but it's just something I wanted to collect. I have about 300 VHS movies at home,
Oh wow.
but they're put in drawers and things like that, so you don't really know that I have all those. I have the entire Rocky and Bullwinkle collection. I've got the Underdog collection. I don't know if you remember Underdog. You remember that? Well, anyway, that was a cartoon in the 60s called Underdog, yeah. And so I have that Underdog collection there. And they did a new movie called Underdog. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it yet.
It's pretty good. Jim Belushi is the main character in that. And what's his name? The actor Jeff Black, I think is his name.
Jack Black, maybe?
Jack Black, yeah.
Jack Black.
Oh.
Did I say Jeff? Yeah, Jack
He's
Black.
hilarious.
He plays Underdog, his voice. They're using his voice
Yeah.
as the character of Underdog, so it's pretty cool. And Taylor Momsen, she played Cindy Lou Who in the movie with Jim Carrey, The Grinch. She's all grown up now. She's like this rock singer, really sensual looking rock singer. Pretty good singer, actually. So she plays in this movie, too. So they have a pretty good cast. And it's true to form. This movie of Underdog is just like watching the cartoon, but you're watching animatronics and the actual characters. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a kick out of watching that because I used to watch Underdog when I was a little boy. That was my favorite cartoon, was Underdog.
I like Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, that was a good one too. Let's see.
Here I come to save the day.
I'm sorry. that's cool, that part. Yeah, I used to watch Mighty Mouse. I don't know if you ever watched that or not.
I haven't, but it reminds me of that guy, Andy something.
Yeah, Andy Kaufman, the comedian.
Yeah,
did
Kaufman.
his-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but way before
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman, they had the original Mighty Mouse cartoon.
Yeah.
And so by the time Andy Kaufman started doing it, it was funny because
Oh, yeah. That was...
he didn't do much. Just like every time they get to that part, here I come to save the day. You know, he just raised his hand. That was about it. He didn't do like no skit. He just stood there while the music was playing. Didn't he? Here I come. It was so funny just watching this man do this. But that was based on the original Mighty Mouse cartoon. If you ever, I don't know if you ever saw it. It was a popular cartoon.
I was wondering where it was from.
Yeah.
I always
It's
associate
from
with
the
it.
cartoon.
I
Yeah, you
used,
can just go on YouTube and they probably got it posted.
yeah, I used to pin a pillowcase to my back of my shoulders so I'd have his cape and I'd run around.
Yeah.
Goofy kid.
I like that. Something like that.
Yeah.
That's the theme song of Mighty Mouse. You should watch it. It's pretty cool. I mean, Mighty Mouse was like really strong.
Yeah.
And his broad chest and his cape. And he's like, mice are little. We be beating up humans, punching the bad guys real fast, and picking them up. You know, he's a mouse, and just it was a cool cartoon.
Yeah.
Here I come to save the day, and he'd always save the day. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. Oh, Mighty Mouse. But they don't make cartoons like that anymore.
No, Saturday mornings aren't nearly as fun as they used to be.
No, all the
Yeah.
cartoons are kind of sinister looking these
Looney
days.
Tunes. Oh, I know. I liked Looney Tunes.
There's just
Yeah.
a few good ones out there that they're currently making.
Yeah, but they're not as fun as the originals.
Have you ever watched Adventure Time at all?
No, I've not.
It's a little silly, but they always have really fun plot lines.
Yeah.
And good story development.
When Jeannie and I were growing up, like, Rocky and Bullwinkle and Underdog, they were like probably the two most popular cartoons. In fact, Underdog was the first cartoon in the Macy's Thanksgiving parade to ever go front. So Underdog got more airtime when that first came out, when they did that. And Underdog went into something like 200 countries when it first came out around the world. That's how popular that cartoon
Did you just have other people translating it?
Yeah.
Probably. And generic translations probably, like those old kung fu movies, You ever watch those kung fu movies?
Yeah.
Your mouth is moving and the words are not matching and stuff. And it was fun
I love
watching those
those.
old kung fu
Oh, I
movies.
love those movies.
Yeah. It over drama.
Yeah.
And that's what was fun to watch,
Yeah.
You watching the guy get popped about 20 times before he finally goes down.
Yeah.
That's not real. You hit a guy one time, he's going to go down. Not like 20 times. That kind of thing. But anyway, Underdog was seen like around 200 countries around the world.
Oh, wow.
He had Underdog t-shirts and pillowcases and toothbrushes and anything pertaining to Underdog. Lunchboxes, the whole thing.
Wow.
And it was on the air for almost 10 years without a single rerun. That's how popular that cartoon was.
Yeah.
But, and then Rocky and Bullwinkle, that was fun too. Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. I can't. Looking up my sleeve. presto, rawr, this big rhinoceros head would come out.
Rolling cut.
Yeah, instead of a rabbit, it would either be a rhinoceros and at one time, when Bullwinkle goes to pull the rabbit out of the hat, it was Rocky the squirrel. Ooh, I'm getting close. But that was just kind of fun, though. That
hilarious.
cartoon.
I always like the little sections they had in there, like the fractured fairy tales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, I think the fractured fairy tales, if I remember.
That's it.
Yeah.
My favorite one of those was one called Sleeping Beauty Land, where the prince decides instead of waking up Sleeping Beauty to open up a theme park around her instead.
Something like that.
I think it's funny that Bullwinkle went to college at What's the Matter You?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But see, the thing is, they don't make cartoons like that anymore. And
No.
speaking of Warner Brothers, the Warner Brother cartoons were Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Tweety Bird, Sylvester.
Yeah,
That was Warner Brothers. Whereas Hanna-Barbera was Yogi Bear,
The Flintstones.
the Jetsons,
Yeah.
those kind of cartoons. So each one of those movie studios had their own set of cartoons. Now, I've been to the Hanna-Barbera studio in California years ago, and they gave me a tour. This was before the computer age, obviously. And in those days, they used to draw the cartoons frame by frame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when they took me on this tour of the Hanna-Barbera studio, they took me on this corridor that had like encased in glass like portraits. The actual cartoons. Snagglepuss, Secret Squirrel, the Jetsons, Flintstones, just professionally drawn in this glass case. So it was cool. And some of the cartoon characters were really known in Hanna-Barbera, and some probably weren't as known, like Snagglepuss. I don't know if people remember that character or not. Or
Yeah, I
Quick
remember.
Draw McGraw.
Yeah, I remember those.
He was like this this horse that could draw.
Did he carry a guitar with him? And sometimes he hit people with his guitar?
Yeah, I think he did, if I remember that correctly. Yeah, Quick Draw McGraw.
Yeah,
So,
I think he did.
it makes me think of Dr. Phil. His last name is McGraw, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he got teased, called Snagglepuss or something
Yeah.
like that. Quick Draw. Hey, Quick Draw! Hey, Quick Straw! They called him Quick Straw. He had a Latino,
Was it a mouse they hung out with
a
him?
little donkey-like
Oh.
sidekick.
Yeah.
And he couldn't speak English very well, so they called him Quick Straw. Of course,
I
you
like
don't want to.
Speedy Gonzales.
Yeah, that was cool. Now you don't want to go around saying that now because we live in a politically correct
I
culture.
know.
So you say
Yeah.
Quick Straw, now you might offend somebody.
Oh,
But
my
those were
gosh.
fun cartoons, and I don't
Yeah.
think they were out to offend.
No, of
It's
course
just
not.
as times changed, the political correct movement came into.
Oh, yeah,
being
it took all the
too.
fun out of everything.
Yeah, I'm all for political correctness, but sometimes I think it's overkill.
Yeah.
Just the slightest thing, sets people off.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
crazy.
They do get touchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess if you were to watch those Hanna-Barbera characters with that little donkey character, it would probably be considered not cultural
Offensive.
correct anymore.
Oh.
And even Carmen Miranda,
That's
getting back to
crazy.
her, the story I did on her just yesterday. She did 14 films with that hat. Then she goes and does a performance for the First Lady of Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, yeah. Or Argentina. It was one of those countries where she actually did a performance and she comes out speaking in English. That didn't sit well with the crowd then. And this was before the politically correct movement.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then when she started doing her nightclub act like she had always done in Hollywood, she got booed off the stage. And that was considered offensive to the Brazilian Argentine people. So eventually, like anything else, popularity wears off, the novelty wears off on
Yeah.
things, and that's what happened with Carmen Miranda. But if you watch any of her films, I think they're all fun. I don't think they're offensive.
Oh, no.
I don't think so. If it was some racial thing, maybe, or some ethnic joke, I can see.
Yeah.
Maybe they perceived it as being an ethnic joke, like...
Yeah, I understand that, but I don't think they were
Yeah.
being offensive at that time. So
What's interesting, though, and despite of this political correctness, is a lot of our cartoons are more offensive than they've ever been before.
yeah, some
It's
of them
interesting,
are.
yes.
But getting back to Underdog, you remember I told you it was on for like 10 years on a single rerun. You know how that show got canceled? Well, throughout the 10 years, Underdog had this ring.
Mm-hmm.
And inside the ring was an Underdog vitamin energy pill.
Mm-hmm.
Just an energy pill for vitamin. And people take vitamins all the time.
Yeah.
So when underdog got tired, he got weak, he'd take this pill, and then he'd get his strength back. So when the political movement was starting to emerge on the scene in the 70s, they went after underdog. Well, we don't think our kids should be watching this underdog character taking a pill. I thought that was overkill.
That's crazy.
And so that ended this underdog series and put a lot of cartoonists and stuff out of work at that time, which was so unfair.
Yeah.
Maybe they were like concerned, like some 4-year-old will see underdog take some pills. And
I understand
I know what pills
that,
are.
but it was an energy pill. So.
Yeah, maybe they'll go into their parents' bathroom cabinet and just take whatever's there to be
I know, and I
underdog.
understand that, but I'm just saying that, political correctness is one thing, but I think it's really done overkill these days. Every little thing is culturally. It's like walking on a tightrope. You just gotta watch how you say or do anything, or you're offending somebody. And I think it's overkill.
Maybe
So I
underdog
don't think
should-
I'm going to get a popularity contest saying that, but it's the truth,
Yeah.
It's overkill. I mean, if you don't comb your hair right, you're offending somebody. If you eat too much, you're offending somebody.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Or if you eat too little, you're offending somebody too.
Yeah, so it's crazy. It's just too much. Social issues, racial stuff, that's one thing. I'm all for stopping racial things and that sort of thing, but it can get overkill like an underdog and Quick Draw McGraw with his little donkey sidekick and things like that. And there was a show from the past, Amos and Andy. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it.
It was
I don't
an
think I've ever seen
African-American comedy.
Yeah.
And I thought it was extremely funny. And it had a black cast. And this was like in the, early 50s? Maybe the late 40s?
Yeah.
Called Amos and Andy.
That
And I
was
thought that
just-
was an achievement then
Yeah.
at that time because...
That was unheard of.
Yeah, Hollywood just really frowned on people of so-called color being stars of television shows, and Amos and Andy was genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And that was considered offensive too as the movement came out. And I don't know if you've ever seen that show. It's incredibly funny. Yeah, they're not making fun of anybody. Just the storyline was just funny, but because they spoke broken English or something. And even just a lot of other shows.
Well, it makes me think of Brer Rabbit.
Yeah.
And even that is it's so innocent and fun. And oh no, we don't like that. That's offensive because of, I guess, the way he talks or the things that he says, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's
overkill.
It's
and
very
also,
entertaining.
The Lone Ranger, the original Lone Ranger with Clayton Moore and Jay Silverheels.
Yeah.
That was very popular.
Oh, it was a great show.
Yeah,
I love that show.
And what I liked about that show was it always stood for right. Even
Yeah.
if Tonto had broken English, the native people now think it's very offensive.
Yeah, they're.
And I think it's overkill, like
Well,
I'm talking about. I mean, they weren't
they're
making
real
fun.
touchy,
I'm a little bit native too, and I don't see anything offensive about the Lone Ranger because that character stood for right.
Yeah.
It was always good versus evil, and good triumphing over bad.
Yeah. I remember there was a demonstration down in Kansas City where I lived before I moved here, and they didn't like it that the football team is called the Chiefs. And these other people were like, why don't you understand what's wrong with you? That's a compliment, you know? It's, we're not trying to offend you. It's just, that's a good name, you know, because the names of the teams had to be something that was, you know, aggressive and like a champion of some kind. So
Yeah, well, I don't think it's offensive. I mean, I understand it with this new movement, but my point is it's just overkill. Because where do you draw a line where it's really defending versus just overkill, oversensitive about everything and stuff?
I even saw a lady on the internet who said that we shouldn't have Christmas trees because they're pagan.
Yeah, see, that's
And
overkill.
That's,
I have a Christmas tree in my home that I keep year round.
Does
It's
she
an artificial
not
tree.
like pagans? Is that why she doesn't want to have one, or is it?
Well, no, she felt that pagans were satanic. which is just so stupid.
So out of her fear of pagans being satanic, she doesn't want anyone to have a Christmas tree?
Right. Well, back before Christianity, the pagans brought evergreens into their homes to celebrate Yuletide, which we now call Christmas. And that's why we have Christmas trees, because they would bring them in, because it's everything else is dying, but this is still alive and green and beautiful, and they call them evergreens. And
So is it kind of a cultural merger then?
yeah, and so now it's evolved into Christianity, and you get a beautiful Christmas tree, decorated and all that stuff. And oh no, don't have those. Those are pagan.
Well, then they might
And I
think I'm
just
pagan
thought-
because I have a Christmas tree in my home that I keep year
Yeah,
round.
I
It's
see
an
it.
artificial tiny little tree, and it's fun to just plug it in sometimes at night.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and,
I just think that
I think
sometimes
it's overkill.
Sometimes
yeah,
there's-
political correctness movement can be just
crazy.
overkill.
I just feel like there's somebody out there who's just worried sick that somebody's going to have fun,
I
so
know
they've
it.
got to ruin everything.
Ruin it, and make it bad
Yeah,
for everybody.
yeah.
And I'm not going to let someone tell me I can't have a Christmas tree in my
Yeah.
own home.
And
stuff.
there's nothing wrong with pagans are not satanic.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
I know, yeah,
Yeah,
but
and
it's
people-
our culture, so it's like everything is bad. So where do you
Yeah.
draw the line? Like I was
Yeah.
saying, where do you draw a line between what is true defending versus overkill
Yeah.
and stuff? So I don't know.
If we go back to football teams' names, you also have the Washington team called the Redskins, and I'd
Yeah.
imagine a lot of
I would
natives would not like being referred to as a Redskin.
Well, yeah,
Well, yeah,
and I can see
uh-huh.
that.
Yeah, so-
Well,
that
all right, I'll
one's-
tell you. Here, you know when we were talking about the difference in those old Western movies, like the John Wayne movies and things like that. Not to pick on John Wayne because I don't think it's he personally. When they refer to a native woman as a squaw,
Yeah.
now I can see that being very offensive
Yeah.
because that refers to the. I had to do the clean version, the female lady parts, and that's
Yeah.
as far as I'm going to go with that. So you call a native woman that could be offensive.
Yeah.
But something like the name of the Redskins, I don't think that's.
I don't know, if you call someone who's
Yeah.
native a Redskin, chances of them getting offended are, I would say,
I
decent
understand
amount,
that, but I'm
right?
talking about the football team.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying walk up to a native person and say that. Because like I told you, I have native in my family. My
Yeah.
mother, my birth mom was born in the Choctaw Reservation in Arizona. Some of us are just darker, like me,
Yeah.
because I took after my father. But if you look at my nose, anybody looking at my nose can see I've got native features if you look
Yeah.
at me closely.
Yeah.
So I think I can say that with some kind of authority. I don't think it's necessarily as offensive.
I have a friend
Certain-
who is 100% Lakota Sioux. She doesn't even like to be called an Indian. She says that's not nice.
Yeah. Well, okay, and I understand.
Native
so-
Americans is what
Yeah.
she's introduces herself. It's,
But here's my thing too. Why do we have to be called Native American or African American? Why can't we just be called American?
yeah,
Because I don't like being called African American.
really.
No, I use
Yeah.
that term just to make the distinction between the race that we have.
Yeah.
But where in the rule books in our country, in the U.S. of A., does it say, well, I mean, who invented this? We got to call Chinese people Chinese American or Asian American,
Yeah.
Asian people
Yeah.
or black people, African American. Why can't we just all be called American? That's how I look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I don't like being called African American. I don't, because I've never been to Africa, and I'll probably never go on that continent.
Do you think
know what I
the
mean?
different titles we call people is reflective of cultural divides, or do you think it forms cultural divides?
I don't know. Somebody invented those rules maybe in the '60s, because my original birth certificate. You know what it says on there? It says Negro, Negro. I was born in 1958. Way back before they had all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. That
Yeah.
my original birth certificate classifies me as Negro. And if you want to talk about the history, they used to call you the N-word, which I don't recommend that. I can see defending that
Yeah.
when I was little.
Yeah.
And then it went from the N-word to Negro to African American. Oh no, I'm sorry, black first.
Black. Yeah.
Then came to turn African American.
Yeah.
If I had to choose, I'd rather be called African American, but I don't like any of those terms. I never liked it when I was a kid growing up.
Yeah.
I am not black. I have brown skin. Black is like the black on this, or like this piano
Yeah.
here. But for distinction purposes, I guess whoever invented that, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's what Michael Jackson ruined his face because he wanted to get rid of his wide nose.
And that's ridiculous, you know.
And
that's
now,
really ridiculous.
when he died, he had no nose. He had to wear a prosthetic because he'd done too many surgeries on it, and he just had a little cartilage and a hole in his face.
Yeah.
You know, Michael
Ugh,
Jackson, when
which
he
is
was making those
horrendous.
changes, I think he was at his best around the time he did Thriller and
Oh, yeah.
the Thriller and the Bad album around there. If he'd have stopped right
Yeah.
then.
I liked Off the Wall the best, which was like 79.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
interesting to hear
I
you
do
say
too,
that, because I
yeah.
think that's his best album too.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
I
that.
see.
I know that the Thriller maybe got more awards or whatever.
Yeah, but
Oh.
But I think it's funny. You're the first person besides myself that has ever said that. I
Yeah.
always thought Off the Wall was Michael Jackson's greatest work of all
Oh,
time.
yeah, I love that. I know. I'm
yeah.
like,
It's not overproduced. It's
Yeah,
I'm,
it was-
I'm
yeah.
inspired to go
And
get.
the voice, well, he was younger too, but
Yeah.
the voice was just there. Not that it wasn't there in the other albums, but it had more of a wide variety of songs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like the one that I don't remember the name of it goes something like this.
Yeah.
You remember that song? That song.
Yeah, that's
Off the
pretty.
Wall. Yeah.
That's a beautiful
I
song.
could probably figure that out and
Yeah.
come up with it if I took time to learn it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that was his greatest work.
Yeah.
Of course, everything Michael Jackson ever did was great.
Well,
I
it
understand.
was,
that, but,
yeah.
that to me was his in my opinion, was his
I've got to
greatest
go.
work.
I've got to find that at the library and listen to that from start to finish
Yeah.
again. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, well, they
And
probably have it
was
posted
good.
on the computer too. So.
Yeah.
well, that was a great place to get CDs, though.
Yeah,
Or
I
anything,
just
really.
discovered them, and I found little nooks and crannies where they got the really good stuff. You know, I found James Brown and the Jackson 5 and the Supremes. You know, things that I can do when I'm doing the dishes or mopping the floor.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I like to have music going.
Yeah.
Good
You know,
music.
well, those are some
Yeah.
interesting songs that touch a culture, I guess. The
Yeah.
Motown sound, which you probably.
Oh, I
familiar with.
love it. I love Motown stuff.
Yeah, the artists of that era, Smokey
Yeah.
Robinson, Stevie Wonder when he was younger, of course. And,
The Temptations.
yeah.
and I like the Four Tops.
I'll tell you a story about the Temptations. This is a true story. I got to meet that group in real life once.
Really?
I was playing at the Billings Hotel years ago, and they were going through Montana on their way to a concert. So they stopped at the hotel, and it happened to be the hotel I was playing. And so I got to meet the Temptations, and they flocked around the piano. They wanted to hear a song. You know what I did? I played a song by the Four Tops by mistake.
Oh no!
And then when I realized what I had done, I was so embarrassed.
Did it hurt their feelings?
No, but they
Oh.
looked at me with a smile. They go, you know, Asaph, you played really well, but you played the wrong song.
Oh, maybe they like the change. Maybe they hear their own songs too much.
Yeah, I did a song called Bernadette.
Oh, I love that song.
I'll give you my yeah.
I bet they probably like that better than having one of their own songs played at them. This is something that stands out.
Yeah.
Well, that's a short version.
I
But
love that.
It sounds much better on a concert grand piano than these little
Yeah.
keyboards.
Hmm.
But yeah, I played Bernadette for the Temptations. Oh, God, I was embarrassed. I mean, oh my goodness! I
Oh
mean,
my
I did
God,
the
what is-
entire song, you know,
Yeah.
and they just stood there smiling at the hotel while I was playing this song. They still talk to me and asked me if I'd consider playing for them, but that
Oh,
never
my goodness.
materialized, you know. I mean, I did all the follow-up stuff. And, you know, sometimes an opportunity can come your way, but if it doesn't materialize, I guess maybe it's not meant.
Yeah, that's true.
So I didn't like take that personal, but at least I got offered a job by that group once
Yeah.
and
Oh my goodness.
got to play the piano for them, so that was fun.
And the Temptations, that's 5 people in that group, right?
There might have been originally,
Yeah.
because I was really young when they...
And they kind of had a rotating staff after they quit or
Yeah.
otherwise left this world.
Well, they're I think their lead singer, David Ruffin was his name. I think he's passed on now.
Yeah.
So. And I think a majority of those guys are probably very old now, retired now. And this was years ago when this happened. It wasn't like last year. It was like years ago. So
Have you ever seen the Motown building that they recorded in?
I've not seen it in real life. Maybe pictures, I suppose.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen a picture of it. It's
Yeah, my dad used to live in Detroit. That's where he was born, and we lived there until like '94. I lived
oh wow.
in the suburbs, like Ann Arbor, which isn't at all like Detroit at all. But apparently, the old Motown building actually is hard to distinguish from any other building around. It just looks like a house.
I'm sure maybe
Wow.
maybe they just didn't have the technology and
Yeah.
at that time like we do
Yeah.
today and so on.
Well, they probably had all the technology on the inside, but the outside,
Inside, yeah.
outside it looks just like a house.
Yeah.
Is what I heard. That was my parents. who
Probably
told me.
true. But yeah, that's a great legacy that Barry Gordy and that whole organization left.
But you've got to really dig for that stuff at the library because it's just under R&B, and there are like 3 drawers of R&B, and it's hard to pull them out and dig through. I put in their suggestion box, you should have Motown separate from R&B because, it's a sound that I'm looking for, I want to see, but I got to dig through all these people that I don't even know, just to find a Four Tops or something. Or I'm trying to find the Jacksons when they stopped. They ended the Jackson 5s or the Jacksons and did Dancing Machine. I love that song.
Dancing, dancing.
Yeah, Dancing Machine. She's super bad now. Yeah. Oh, let's. It's so cool the way he picks that up like that.
Yeah, there's a trick to that too.
Yeah.
I had to train for that for years.
Yeah.
Did a lot of training. I was telling Jeannie in the other show, you probably hadn't heard of him, Bumps Blackwell. He was Little Richard's manager.
Oh.
He was my teacher when I was 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I studied with that guy for 3 years. Intense training. And all those things probably helped for me to be the piano player I am today.
Was Little Richard a piano player, or did he play?
Yeah, he played piano.
Piano.
Well, he didn't probably play it in the sense like popular music as far as like play Stardust or Moon River.
Yeah, but he played his own stuff.
Yeah, his own stuff. That early rock and roll stuff like Tutti Frutti and all
Tutti
that.
Yeah.
And the banging style. For
Yeah.
that kind of music, it worked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that kind of piano playing like if you're on a cruise ship. They want the romantic stuff, so
Yeah.
you don't want to be banging on I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah.
But as far as early rock and roll and in the movies and stuff, it worked.
Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis and all those others.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Jerry
Yeah.
Lee Lewis banged on the piano.
Yeah, and they'd like take their feet,
Just-
put their
yeah.
feet on the piano like this,
And just
and just have
tear
fun.
it up.
You know, when I was a little boy and I was watching Little Richard on television, I would cringe when I would watch this man at times. Remember, he'd get to screaming that rock and roll stuff, and he'd jump on the piano in that tux with those shoes and be jumping on that piano. And I used to go like, oh, God, he's just butchering this piano. I mean, it was fun to watch, I understand, but, that poor piano. Little Richard bouncing on that thing. It was probably his own personal piano.
Yeah.
Because I think he would make the piano tuners and the piano shop owners go,
Oh, you're hurting my piano.
Yeah. Well, he was probably wealthy enough to reimburse them if it was theirs, but it's just amazing. And a whole hour has gone by already.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a
Already?
little over an hour.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No wonder I'm so exhausted.
No,
I'm
that's
very
okay.
tired.
I want to treat you to a taco if you have time. I'm
Oh,
gonna
I'd
make
love
you
a
copy
taco.
of the first show. Well,
Okay.
Noelle that does a news program, she's at work right now, and I promised her I'd buy a taco.
Oh,
It's just right
yummy.
next door.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm very thirsty. I need a soda.
Well, I'll treat you in a few
We'll do
minutes.
that. I got
So
some
let's
money.
sign off here. Well, let's make some
All right.
acknowledgments. First of all, this is Asaph Cafe, and we're in our Field of Daisies Meadows with my guests Jeannie and Daniel. And we've just had fun talking, and I like the topics that we talked about, so this will be fun.
Yeah, that was
when
fun.
this get played.
Yeah.
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, until our next show, Maranatha.
Okay.
All right, perfect.